Okay, I am going to talk about a court case that is for workplace violence. It is called the Mayo versus PCC structuals. Now, Mayo is a person who basically is a threat to the company of PCC structuals, and basically Mayo sent PCC structurals to court for ADA, the American Disability Act, and discriminating him and firing him for making threats because he was disabled. And we'll see how this court case went and what had happened and everything. So, Mayo worked for aluminum and titanium casting and in 1987, and he was diagnosed in 1999 with depression disorder. Now, 2010, he worked, and one day, in 2011, one day he was working and talking to his coworkers, and him and the coworkers were complaining about the supervisor there, and saying that the supervisor was basically bullying them, and they reported to the manager about what was happening. They reported to HR, Human Resource, first, and then it went to the manager because it was written. They wrote down the supervisor and said that, blah, 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 that he was being a bully and everything like that. Well, they had a meeting with everyone and the co-workers, and basically after the meeting, Mayo was part of it because, he was one of the co-workers who had a problem with it. After the meeting, Mayo went to his co-workers, a lot of co-workers, and said that he would love to take a shotgun and come in during their shifts, the supervisor's shifts, and blow their heads off. And he had told about 5 different co-workers about this, and that when the co-workers heard about this, they reported to the manager about it. And when HR received the reports and threats and statements on February 15th of 2011, they called Mayo up and discussed it with him, which is good for the company because they investigated before they just straight up fired him for the threats. That's an important thing for a business. And when they did, Mayo agreed that he did say those threats, and that the manager asked if he deliberately meant to actually do it one day, and he goes, "No, I can't tell you I won't," basically. And so right then and there, they basically they suspended him and called the cops, and they suspended him from the company and the area of the company. And they informed the police and everything because that is the big threat, and he admitted it and didn't say that he wouldn't actually do it, which means that it could still be a threat, which is important. And another day, or that day, police came to his door and asked him if he really was going to do those threats and do what he says. Mayo says, "Yes, I want to go and blow the heads off to the supervisor and managers and everything." And the cop goes, "Do you have any guns?" He says, yes, and I don't know, I haven't really figured out which one I'm going to use yet. And the police officer goes, do you plan on killing them today? And he goes, not today. So basically, he is really informing everybody that this threat is serious. Because he could have just said, no, I just got stressed or whatever, but he didn't. He is actually threatening them. And that is a serious thing. And this threats are part of a workplace violence. This is the point of the whole case. That even though it's a threat, this could come to a point where he could probably be in enough stress to go in there and shoot everybody's heads off and lose your employees, even your best employees, and ruin your business and everything. It's terrible. Threats are just as important to workplace violence because they can cause the violence, the actual physical violence. So they took Mayo in custody and they put him in the hospital for 6 days. And he took leave under the Oregon Family Leave Act for 2 months. And then, during that time, he went to a psychologist. And the psychologist cleared him to be able to work. As he was claimed from the psychologist to be not violent, but probably need to assign a new supervisor at PCC, and that it wasn't promised that he would be paid. May 20th of 2011, PCC terminated Mayo. Just terminated it. So August 2011, Mayo sued, saying that they violated the ADA, the American Disability Act, because of his disability, and that they were being discriminatory. So, PCC removed the case to federal court in 2012, and in July 2013, it went to the district court. And district court granted PCC's motion for the summary judgment, and it came to Mayo as Mayo said that he was a qualified individual when he made threats and that he was a qualified individual when he made threats, but not ADA does not accept that as being a qualified individual. Once you threat to kill or be in any workplace violence, be the cause of any workplace violence, you are basically a hazard to the company, which is not okay. EEOC, ADA, basically, they're saying he's a hazard, and this has nothing to do with his disability. Basically, what his threats, they are saying his threats was not from his disability. It's just from his stress, which you are actually supposed to control your stress as an individual person. And that has nothing to do with a disability. If you are a threat, you are a hazard, which is not a bad thing to fire. You are supposed to get rid of hazards. It's not he was getting rid of his disability. He was getting rid of a hazard. And that's what ADA was saying. And to be able to prevail on ADA, you must show that you are disabled during the statute, and that he has a disability, and that he has suffered from being discriminated by being disabled. That's all they do. But they're saying that he wasn't discriminating because he was disabled. That's not the problem. The problem was he made threats and he was a hazard to the company. That is why he fired him. He had proof from statements, and that he even said to the police officer that he would. He's admitted he said these things, which is a threat, an obvious proven threat, and that is the reason why he fired him, because of the hazard to the company, not his disability. Because even if you're on disability, you basically can still control your stress. You're supposed to be responsible for your stress and controlling it. That has nothing to do with threatening a company and killing people. Okay? That's different. ADA says you are qualified if you are able to do things. Yes, he is able to do things even if you are or not in the state of mind. But Mayo is not a qualified individual because what I was saying, because he had threatened and he was a hazard to the company, and he is responsible to handle his stress. Okay? He is not qualified for threatening, and that's the only reason why he's not qualified. Being qualification would be, you can be disabled, but no threats. That's a hazard. And ADA and EEOC both agreed on the subject of the same thing, same reason. And Mayo tried to turn to the direct threat defense, but the direct threat defense allows an employer to fire anyone as a danger to the employees. The direct threat defense is the one who's saying, you're a hazard. It's okay to fire someone who's a hazard to the company. That basically is the real reason why he fired him, and gave them a real good reason. It came down to, he was saying, give him a new supervisor, but that wouldn't really did anything. That would have just relieved that stress from that supervisor, but the new supervisor would have just gave him another reason to want to shoot people again. It wouldn't do anything working with others. Basically, probably the only thing that he needs to do, in my opinion, is probably find a job not interacting with people. And he could probably get a job like that. And that would be very, very appropriate. I would hire him. Yes, he has a disability. And that is a good human resource hiring thing, to where he can't say no, but he can work in an environment that is not toward people. But obviously, Mayo lost the case in PCC Structural Company. One, because they proved that they fired him for not his disability, but for a threat and hazard to the company of being a workplace violation. And I think that is perfectly fine. I agree. And Mayo is crazy, obviously. But basically, I agree with the court and with EEOC and ADA and the direct threat defense. They all found out it's not even worth fighting for. He just has to find something to do without being a threat to the company. That's all I got to say today, and I got a link below of where I had got all this information from, and thank you.